Well, I hope all the moms out there had a great Mother's Day weekend. Had a pretty good weekend here at the house. Was going to go do a little bit of camping Friday evening and go to a large train show right outside the campground area. But had some severe thunderstorms coming up for the state, so both those plans got canceled. No camping video this week, sadly. But anyways, spent some time with my mom on Sunday, and my other half and her daughter. We all spent some time together, like usual. But yeah, nothing too extravagant, I guess you say. Went and got something to eat and things like that. Anyways, work is going unexpected. I'm having to operate, manage, run, however you want to say it, guide, whatever. Two teams now. Had somebody quit the company, so they chose me to go help out the other team. Thing is, it's about an hour between teams, so I'm stretched pretty thin day to day. Was going to be just a week, and now it's probably going to be maybe close to a month before they can get some help in there. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. The overtime is going to be great. Let's just say that. But anyways, this week's Mailbag Monday only has one envelope, but I think there's like 4 or 5 cards in there. So let's go ahead and get into it. Today's Mailbag Monday. Not even no fancy camera tricks again this week. Just straight off into it. One envelope. I think it's 5. It might be 6. I can't remember. We're about to find out all together. This one comes to us from Dewey Beach, Delaware. This is starting to be one of my favorite sellers. They have postcards that usually start about 50 cents with dollar shipping, goes on up, and just bids. I actually have probably 5 or 6 more I'm bidding on right now from this seller that, yeah, it's like starting at 50 cents, and I think dollar shipping, and every card after that it's like a nickel. So really, really affordable. They have a vast variety of cards at very good prices. Speaking of prices, it's funny how I was just looking through eBay at postcards, and looking at like this right here, it just confuses me why people don't do just a little bit of research when they're posting their cars. You see here, there's one for like $1.50 shipped to you, and literally the next one down, the same exact card is $10.34. That's I don't get it. I don't understand it. So, anyways, let's get into these cards here. So, I have, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's get into it. Let's start off with this one here. Just set these other ones off the side for the time being. I made a little prototype of a card holder, and it didn't work out quite well. So you're gonna have to bear with me for just a little bit longer until I get out the kinks out of that experiment, let's just say. Anyways, this is the Lake Eufaula Motor Lodge. Now this is located in Eufaula, Alabama. Yep, it says here 30 units, electric heat, air conditioned, TV, restaurant nearby, and room telephones. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this was opened in the late 50s, early 60s. The area was, I think it had some Civil War significance, but also back in probably the 80s or 90s, it had a pretty big bass tournaments and stuff like that. There was a big lake out there that was pretty popular. All around the lake back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they had lakeside resorts and things like that. And a lot of those kind of just dried up with the times. If I'm not mistaken, this hotel has now been open for at least probably 10 years now. Looking on Google Maps Street Views, you see it's definitely seen its better days. So, yeah, that's all I paid 50 cents for this card, and I like the cool old retro sign and the cars. Look at the cars. Those look like 60s or 70s cars. I'm just going to guess at it. Not exactly sure, but yeah. But as you can tell, the picture I just showed, this hotel unfortunately does not look anywhere like this anymore. and this week's coffee mug. I got this cool one here at the Bellingraph Gardens when we went and saw the Asian lights. It's kind of hard to tell without spilling it. It looks like a terracotta pot in the Bellingraph Gardens, so that was kind of cool. So, anyways, let's get on to the next one here. Let's do this one. This is the world famous treehouse. Believe it or not, this is where's it at? Let's take a look here and see what it says about the world famous treehouse. It says the world famous treehouse located in Treehouse Park, 30 miles north of Laytonville on the Redwood Highway. Built in a large redwood tree, the room is 21 by 27 feet inside. The room is 50 feet high. The tree is approximately 250 feet high, and it's approximately 4,000 years old. Now, this was opened in the early to mid 1920s. I'm not sure how it came about where they found it. I think people had bought the property and realized the tree was there, and I want to say lightning had struck and burnt out the inside of the tree, so that's why it was hollow. And they decided to make, I think it was originally a gift shop. It ended up being a gift shop, but I think it first was a gift shop inside the tree. As you can tell, it was hollowed out, so it had a pretty substantial, well, for a tree, it was 21 by 20 something feet. It was a pretty cool little experience out there on the Redwood Highway. I've never been out there, but I saw this postcard. I may have paid $2 for it. Now probably ain't that much. It's just a cool one of those old cool roadside attractions. If I'm not mistaken, the little real research I did, this has been closed for at least 3 to 4 years. It's gone for a couple of different owners over the years. I think the last owner bought it in 2000, early 2000s. I think the husband of the couple passed away. The wife was trying to keep it going, and I don't think she made it anymore, or the business closed down. The last pictures I've seen on Google Street View, it was all, this was all grassed up and just overgrown, bushy, and it was kind of sad. I wish somebody would be able to purchase it and keep it going, but like I said, it probably hasn't been open for the last 3 or 4 years maybe, so it's quite unfortunate. Let's see, let's do this one here. Now this one is Greeting from Georgia's Underground, Atlanta. Now, I've been to this, 1999, early 2000, I think it was. Anyways, so let's see. It says here, 4 blocks of subterranean historical structures near busy Five Points in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, are preserved in their original gay 90s glory. They have been restored to provide profusion of fine shops, unique lounges, and interesting restaurants. Now, this was postmarked 1976. Somebody's asking to send them a sticker or something like that. But anyways, so the Atlanta Underground opened in late 60s, if I'm not mistaken. They built it for like entertainment purposes, bars, nightclubs, restaurants, things like that. And I think I want to say they spent like $10 million back in the day. This is late 1960s. So they spent like $10 million, I think it was, to redevelop all this area that was like viaducts for trains and subways and things like that weren't being used anymore. So they're redeveloping the area to actually get some use out of it. I think at one time they had like 75 or 80 bars and nightclubs in there, and it was flourishing, and actually was competing against Bourbon Street, if you can believe that or not. It was actually competing against Bourbon Street in revenue. Then in the 1970s, like early 70s, they lowered the drinking age in the area from 21 to 19. And then they also like relaxed the dress code and some of the rules and regulations and stuff of the underground. And that basically brought in riffraff, let's just say. They not favorable people, or the people just like to fight, whatever. Nobody got along, that sort of thing. So fights broke out, crime got pretty bad, security couldn't handle it, that sort of thing. So in the early 80s, I think it was, they closed it down, fenced it off. And then in the late 80s, or mid 80s, I think it was, can't remember what it was, new mayor came in. He got some funding and put some city funding into it, and they spent like 140, $150 million to revitalize it again, into the shopping mall district that I remember. It was pretty cool. Just it was like a mall underground, but once you got in there, you really didn't know you were in the underground. It was kind of dark, but it was like any other mall, just had like kind of low ceilings, I guess. Yeah, and that ended up closing in like 2016 after the just economy and just other things to go see and do that were more prominent, that sort of thing. Then in 2021, somewhere in that area, early 2020s, let's say, they opened it back up for like an entertainment district area, and there's bands and concerts, and it's not nowhere near what it was, say back in the early 70s and things like that. It's still trying to go, and I think they have, I think above it there's like some apartments or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, it is what it is. It's not what it used to be, sadly. Let me get a sip of this coffee here. Okay, so next we have, that is not the Space Needle in Seattle. That is the San Antonio, Texas Tower in San Antonio. Looks like they're having a little fair there underneath it. That's pretty cool. Didn't realize that when I bought it. And it looks like there's a monorail there going around, or a rail. Oh, interesting. It says, Tower of the Americas, San Antonio, Texas. Tallest observation in the Americas, 750 feet from the ground to the top of the antenna. Revolving restaurant at 550 feet level. Fast-moving elevators take you to the top in less than a minute. Now, I actually went to this in 1996, 97, some of that time frame. Had a school trip, and they pretty much let us run amok in downtown San Antonio, which, yeah, it was interesting. Let's just say that. A bunch of high school kids running amok in an unknown area. Anyways, yeah, it was pretty interesting. We got there, we heard there was a restaurant, so we want to go up there and eat this fancy restaurant. And be big spenders and all this other stuff, and we get there and ate, and it revolved around this town. It just spun around just real slowly, and yeah, it was kind of a shock whenever we got the bill and they charged us to ride the elevator. I think it was like $10-12 at the time. We're like, wait, you didn't tell us that. Excuse me. So yeah, they actually charge you to ride the elevator, and they still charge you to ride the elevator. It's $18, $19 to ride the, I think it's $18.50 is what it is actually. $18.50 to ride the elevator, and it takes 43 seconds ride from top to bottom. But let that sink in. That's like $25 a minute. Okay, and math and all that other stuff. But anyways, there's 3 elevators that go up the side of it and takes you to the restaurant. There's a restaurant, a cafe. I think there's a theater and 2 observation areas. Now, those 3 elevators have, I think it was close to 2,000, I think it was 1,950, the ability to move 1,950 passengers per hour. Now, if you figured if they ran at their max capacity of 1,950 passengers at $18.50 a person, they would make a little over $36,000 an hour. Let that sink in. So yeah, still there. I don't know how popular it is. My mom and dad, they used to go to San Antonio pretty regularly. Once every couple of years, they enjoyed the riverfront, or what they ever call the Riverwalk. And I'm not sure if they've been into the tower there. I don't know. It's been a while since I've been there. Actually, that was the first and only time I was in San Antonio. So I might have to add San Antonio onto my list of things to do and see. I don't know. It's just it's a good ways off, but it might be interesting. And so next we have here, it looks like a restaurant. It looks like a buffet restaurant. It looks like Swedish House. No, it says Sweden House. Okay, it gives the address, St. Petersburg, Florida, blah, blah, blah. Everyday hot dishes, cool sparkling salads. St. Petersburg's finest smorgasbord service. Fine food and gracious dining without extravagance. And there's a couple other locations you see there. This is kind of like a Golden Corral or a Ryan Steakhouse, or who remembers Quincy's? I think that was buffet too, if not mistaken. yeah, this was back before, I guess, they smorgasbord. They just called it buffet. I don't know why they smorgasbord seems kind of interesting to say. I mean, you don't hear that anymore. That's kind of cool. It's just now it's called a buffet. I don't know. I don't know why I got this. Like I said, these cards are like 50 cents at the least. I may have paid 50 cents just because I was intrigued by the whole smorgasbord. It's 50 cents. I'm not gonna lose my mind over 50 cents. That was kind of cool. Did a little research on this. I think this was open between the 50s and 60s. I was looking at the historical aerial views of the area. I think it was between the 50s and mid 60s, somewhere in that area. But closed late 80s to early 90s in that time frame, maybe. I'm not sure if it was a smorgasbord all throughout its life, but yeah. Right now, it is a Quality Inn hotel, motel, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, yeah. It's no longer there anymore. It's a motel, so. Anyways. And the last postcard after a sip of coffee. So the last postcard, today's Mailbag Monday, it says Silver Springs. Is this the Silver Springs glass boats that we all know? I don't think it is. This is the Joe Borden's glass bottom boats. Shows all Silver Springs plus 14-mile jungle cruise, 2-hour trip. Best boats, more trip, less money. Located Highway 40 at the East Ocklawaha. I butchered that one. River Bridge, 10 miles east of Ocala, Florida. Now, this is not the glass bottom boats that we all are known to think of when we think of glass bottom boats at Silver Springs State Park or Silver Springs Park. This was actually just east of that Silver Springs Park. Now, today it is I think it's a Wayside Park, I think is what it's called, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking at Google Maps, and you can tell there where the boats would have got onto the little river there and tied into the Silver River, I think it is, that goes into the Silver Springs towards where the state park is now. It looks like they were actually competing against the state park because it says, best boats, more trip, less money. So it looks like they were kind of competing against trying to take some of the thunder of Silver Springs Park back in the day. If I'm not mistaken, Silver Springs was Florida's first amusement park or theme park or attraction, something like that. I can't remember. I know at one time it actually was a small amusement park and the state took it back over and it's a state park. We tried to go there, about 4 or 5 years ago, and the policy of waiting for the boats. You couldn't reserve a boat. They wanted you to sit there and wait for like 2 or 3 hours in the Florida sun waiting for a boat ride. It was crazy. And I was not about to do that, so we ended up leaving. Never actually been in there. So it's on the list to do. We'll have to get one of the reserved fancy tour. You guys pay extra money for a little bit longer tour, and you get I guess you get to reserve your time if you spend more money with them. I don't know, but yeah, that old Joe Borden, he was trying to take some of the thunder out of there of the Silver Springs boats, I guess, back in the day. Time frame for that probably 60s, maybe 70s. I'm not sure. Kind of hard to tell. I didn't find a whole lot of information about that on the line there. But yeah, kind of an interesting set of postcards here. This whole postcard setup right here was less than probably $8, maybe $9 the most. Yeah, kind of interesting. I like the old retro signs of the motel. I think that's why I like older motels and things like that. Not hotels so much, but motels, because it's just they have a lot more character than a hotel. Hotel is just a building with windows, where these have, like, you can see the different colors of the glass panels, the doors, and things like that. It has character. The signs are more character. It's just interesting. I like the old style motels and things like that. Yeah, the whole Atlanta Underground thing. That's pretty interesting. This is actually mailed. Yeah, 1976. So. But yeah, it's just interesting. I don't remember what all the shops that were in there back then. I want to say I have a brochure. I don't remember. It may not have made it through Hurricane Katrina. I'm pretty sure I got a brochure when I was there in the late 90s, mid 90s, but I can't remember. It's probably gone. But anyways, yeah. Yeah, I never made it out to California, and I think it'd be kind of cool to go see the redwoods. My daughter has seen the redwood trees, with the ones you can drive through and all that stuff. Her grandparents that took her out there, they didn't take me. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, but anyways, actually, the kind of funny, the most west I've ever been is San Antonio, which that's probably the most western point I've ever been to. So, anyways, yeah, it's kind of interesting little setup this week. Like I said, got some really good deals on these cards, and got some interesting cards that are from all around the United States. But I'm gonna finish up my flower pot coffee here, and go take my shoes off, and I might go take a nap. It's been a long day. But like always, I appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you next time.